Well, I think we need to understand why obviously the Asian currencies and emerging market currency have come so much under pressure. We did have some challenges on the financing side. There was some funding dollar stress. I think that is step by step going away. I think that's one factor. Obviously, emerging markets are a growth story, and growth hasn't been really kind globally. I mean, we do look for basically the second quarter for global growth to actually contract almost 4%. So in an environment where there is no growth, contraction, plus there has been funding stress in the dollar, emerging market currencies tend to come under pressure. But I think it's important also to recognize that there has been a big dispersions in the performance. So those with current account deficit, those who are linked to commodities have suffered quite particularly, whereas some other emerging market currencies actually held up reasonably well. Look at the Philippine peso, look for example at the CNY, among others, that actually were extremely resilient despite that broad dollar strength that we saw recently.
Okay, and so specifically, which emerging market currencies do you think are the most vulnerable that you would avoid?
Well, looking, as I said before, I think the key focus is who still needs foreign financing. And I think those currencies like the IDR, INR in the short run are still vulnerable. It's also those two economies that probably still struggle given the means to really fight the pandemic. So I think those are the two currencies here in the region you need to be mindful of. Also, those ones that are really linked to commodities. We look for oil prices, still see renewed weakness as storage inventories could be tested in the second quarter. And I think that is a little bit of a shock, like for the Russian ruble, Brazilian real. I think here we can still see some additional weakness coming in. On the other hand, I think we also need to be clear, the global economy, while things do look quite grim in the second quarter, we do look for a decent recovery in the second half. And I think that's going to lift the entire emerging market currency complex into the second half. So while I mentioned some of these risk currencies at the moment, where risk reward is maybe not that favorable, the second half of the year does look quite rosy actually.